Hello, in this video I'd like to show you RANDOM8. And what RANDOM8 is it is an 8-channel random voltage generator for Eurorack systems, where each of the 8 channels has an output attenuator and a looping button. And the idea of RANDOM8 is you can feed triggers, perhaps from your sequencer, into the inputs, and from all of the outputs on that channel and below, you will get groups of voltages. And so in this way we can split RANDOM8 into a bunch of different stepped or smoothed randoms. But because RANDOM8 is a digital module, it's got some helpful affordances in it, such as any of the 8 channels can be turned into a pitch sequencer, and what I have here is a channel with the pitch output set to Dorian to match the Metropolix. And so, it's solos forever. The point of RANDOM8 is this fact that the human ear can listen to things that are slightly different on a per-step basis for longer. However, the opposite is also true. Which is why, if you push the button, then that channel will loop the last 1 to 32 steps in memory. And in this way we can turn the random things that RANDOM8 makes into deliberate riffs. And if at any point we feel we want this to change but not change completely, we can push the button again to evolve the channels. And what will happen is the channels will change slowly, not immediately but over time. And so in this way, animate and lock, evolve and unlock, along with a great many other useful features. So how does it work? And so how does looping work? Well, once we've got this set up, all you have to do is push the button. And what RANDOM8 will do is it will loop the last 1 to 32 steps in memory. So this is our pitch information, and because this is lit kind of orangey yellow, then it's looping. And if we push it one more time, then we get evolve. That's where it will change slowly over time. You can hear it's changing. Push it again. Then it locks. We can push it again. And it will evolve again. We're kind of in a little bit of a loop here, literally. In the sense that once we push the button, every time we push it once more, it evolves. The way we return to randomness is you double tap it. In fact, there is a little double tap icon just looped around the button to remind you of that. You can loop all of these channels, or I could independently loop the pitch and leave the modulation kind of free roaming and weird, doing different stuff on a per step basis. So I've got the same pitch information, but all of the modulation information is different on a per step basis. Aha! That's really nice. So once again, push to evolve. And so this evolve feature, my intention with it is to use it in this sort of way, where you're kind of ready for a change, but you don't quite know what, and you also don't want to destroy what's good about what's been playing. You want to slowly move to the next thing, not leap to it instantly. It's a great evolutionary way of doing it. inspired by the greats, of course, like the Turing machine. Lock. And off you go. You can keep doing that forever. But let's not do that forever, because there's a lot to get through. Double tap to return to full randomness. Okay, now let's learn about the menus. So how do these menus work? What are they? Well, if you have the gift of sight, you may be able to read that next to each of the 8 buttons is a tiny little label, and they read thusly: presets, divider, a clock divider, probability, that is the probability that it will advance to a new voltage, style, the different styles of randomness, and we've got 8 to choose from at the moment, offset, which is the ability to raise the voltages up, which will be very useful. I'll look at that in a little bit. Scale, in order to quantize these to a scale. Slide, to add slide. And steps, to change the amount of steps when you loop. Let's look at steps first. So if I loop this, we hear it loops. And to get into any of the menus, all you do is you hold the button down for a second. 1/1000. Now, I'm in the steps menu, and I can actually adjust any of the channels if I interact with the knob that corresponds to that channel. If I don't touch any of the knobs, then it doesn't change any of their settings. So what I want to do is I want to change the amount of steps on channel 1, and so I just grab the knob that's next to the channel I want to mess with. I'll use my left hand here, and I can turn this down to 1 step, it just stays at the same pitch, or I can turn it up to 3, or to 8, or to 16, 24, or 32. We use a very universal color system for the steps menu: red, orange, yellow, green. It's ordained by physics. So now this channel is 32 steps, but the other channels are exactly the same because I didn't turn their dials. But if I do grab any of them, then I will just instantly change that channel. So now I've made channel 2 5 steps. And I know this because it's red, that's the first 1 to 8, and there are only 5 lights lit. And then once we're happy with any of the menu settings, we just push any of the buttons to escape, like that. And now we're back on this looping page, and this is set to 5, and this is set to 16. So that was hold it down for 1 second, and then you just turn the dial that you want to interact with. A nice thing here is that RANDOM8 will actually always loop the last 32 steps when you push the looping button, and you can sort of non-destructively change the step length. If you make it 1 step, you don't lose the other steps. You can always expand it back outwards and get 32 steps again. What's another one? Slide. If we do that, now we get slides. This is a slightly yellow color. I hope that comes out in the video. It's really hard to photograph this, but it's got a kind of yellow color. And the key thing to say about slide, which we'll explore a little bit, is it's post-quantiser. And that means that we get this pitch information with the slide. But if we turn it up loads, things go wonky in terms of pitch, because really what we're doing is we're making a kind of complex LFO. We're creating a smooth voltage, which will sound really nice if we control cutoff and stuff with it. And we can just turn that right back down to 0, push the button to escape. And so perhaps I will take the other output here and I will feed it into the FM input here. So now channel 2 is controlling our cutoff. Then let's go into slide and turn up just channel 2. And let's turn up the release. Nice. come in and we can turn that all off. And then let's talk about scales. We do this just by holding it down for 1 second. And now we can adjust scales and turn them on and off for any of the 8 channels. And I just want to mention how this works, which is that we've got 2 pages of scales because we have 16 different options to choose from. And I've tried to come up with kind of colours for these things that make a kind of thematic sense. And in the manual and in the little quick start printed guide that comes with RANDOM8, there's a reference guide for what these are. White is no scale, chromatic, major, major pentatonic, minor, minor pentatonic, Dorian, and blue for blues. And here on the second page, harmonic minor, mixolydian, whole tone, Phrygian, Lydian, melodic minor, Hirajoshi, and octaves. Ooh. Octaves, by the way, is 1 volt steps, which is very useful if you take a precision adder or a mixer that's precise and then blend that with the output of another channel, then you'll get kind of octave jumps, right? Or you could use it for really hard modulation, which is the name of my new EP. But really, the names only mean something if you intend to use RANDOM8 alongside something else that has scales like these. And if you just use RANDOM8 as your pitch generation system, then just listen to them, see what speaks to you. Maybe you'll learn I really like that kind of light green one. It doesn't really matter what they are, unless you're trying to use it with something else. But there's a very important thing just to say about which one you have selected, because if you have the gift of sight, you may see that there is a kind of bar graph that's filling up, and we can see all of the options as it's filling up. And what you need to know is that you have selected always the topmost option. So as we come onto this page, for example, you've selected this one. That's the selected option. And if we come back onto this page, blues is the selected option, or minor. And I've done it this way because I found it easier to know where I was. The pages all have a kind of distinctive look. So I found it really helpful to visualize all your other options and kind of see them and just know that the thing that is at the top of the bar graph, well, that's the thing you actually have selected. And so right now, this is Dorian. And if I wiggle this knob and I put it in the same position as that one, well, that's Dorian too. So now I can push any button to exit, and now both of these channels are set to Dorian. And on these other channels, you could knock these all down to white, no scale, if you were just using them for modulation. But the one thing that I should tell you before we proceed is how to save your work. And that's in the preset menu, which is the top one. And if you hold this down and go into this menu, then by doing that, you have saved the state of RANDOM8. It doesn't just save all the time. You need to go into this little preset menu just to save what it's doing right now. And then you can turn off your case. When you power it back on, then RANDOM8 will be doing the same thing it was when you powered it off. So by entering the preset menu, we've actually saved the working state of the module so we can power it off. But we actually also have 7 additional slots that we can save our working into. And to save, you just hold it down till it flashes, and then you let go. And it'll dump you back out. And now, if we go into the preset menu, this little light is brighter. And that's because there is actually a preset saved in there. If I tap it, then it will load that. Okay. What else can we do? What I'd like to do now is play around with some musical applications of RANDOM8, and we'll use this as a way of playing around with some of the different styles that are in this machine. Styles are the styles of randomness. We have 8 different styles at launch to choose from, and these are broadly in 2 categories, although high-low, the blue one, is a little bit weird. And the first 5 are the kind of stepped randoms, and they have different frequency distributions, and they suit different sorts of things. You may just find that they tickle your ear for certain applications, just in a way that's unique to you. I found through listening and application that the white one is an all-rounder. It's a full frequency range and it's good for all sorts of things. The red one, ROSC, is particularly interesting for melodies, I found, as it's sort of mid-distribution. And then gamma and exponential I found are slightly lower and are good for modulation, And finally, Weibull, this green one, is quite low, and I found particularly good for bass lines, but you can use it for modulation, of course. The blue one, high-low, literally alternates between high and low, one after the other, and so is particularly interesting for rhythmic applications, and is different to these ones, which may hop around. High-low goes high, then low, alternately, which is quite weird and unique. And the top two are wandering styles. And the idea of these is they're a bit like hands modulating controls for you. They don't hop up and down immediately from one step to the next. The next step will be close to the previous one. So these top two are particularly good for modulating timbral controls and just keeping things alive and moving and different in your case. Then what I could do to really show you the wandering style in action is I'll make the pitch channel a wandering style. Turn it up. What we see is that the wandering styles can actually also make really interesting pitch sequences too, because they just give you nice repeating notes, as if someone's just tapping the key on the keyboard, moving up and down slowly. You can actually use them for solos. And if you ever need faster movement, then you can increase the trigger speed going into them. Perhaps give them their own independent rates. With something like a PAMS, then you've got plenty of clocks available to speed them up and slow them down. And so what I'd like to do is use this first channel for pitch. And to that end, I'm going to change the style to ROSC, the red one, because I think the red one's particularly good for melodies. And then for scale, I'm going to change it to major pentatonic, this top one here. Yoink. Feed that into 1 volt per octave. Disattenuate. There you go. Loop it. Then for style, let's have the full range white one here on the second channel. And then adjust position. And then let's add a slide to that. And because this is applying positive modulation, I might like to set my position at the lowest point it wants to be. I could turn up the input attenuator entirely positive and just use the RANDOM8 to dial in the amount of that. It's up to you. You can obviously dial this down at the destination or at the source. Let's have some brightness be modulated. Turn that down. I think we will definitely need damping to also be adjusted. And I want to dial that into a happy range. Now, of course, I've got 4 more channels and Clouds is feeling pretty unloved. So let's go. Density. Wow. Turn down the blend a little. That's cool though. And I do like having blend be modulated. And I could increase the slide on this enormously. And then let's feed that into blend. Turn this down a bit. Ugh. Maybe texture and size. They're the obvious ones. Turn these down. Oh, mate. It's just loads of reverb. It's just always good, isn't it? I don't hate these hard, abrupt changes here for a big change. But what I could do is I could use Dividr. Increase the divider on these. So you'll get a setting that will hold for a bit longer. And you can use slide to take some of the hard edges out. Oh, mate. Oh, mate. Turn this up to increase our maximum reverb time. Turn that down a smidge. We can kind of perform our reverb by reducing the amount of modulation. Kind of almost use this like a macro controller. Man, there's a reason that Rings into Clouds is a meme, because it is just brilliant. It's just brilliant. And the real reward here is spending a good long while finding beautiful ranges for everything. Finding just so a range is something that will take some trial and error. Sometimes just a little is enough, and sometimes a lot is fantastic. That's something that I'll leave you to work out, spend some time playing with. Now let's speed this up. Listen to this at high rates. You get this kind of like abrupt ambience. Of course, we could go through and apply slide quickly to smooth out the abruptions. Turn these into little wiggles, little sine waves. Loop. Oof. Let's have 16 steps. Mate. So 16-step sequence plays over all this randomness. Oof. My arm hairs just started. They almost went. We're almost there. And then we could use Dividr and increase the Dividr to add a little persistence so it holds these settings for a step or two more, or 8. So you can make it so that it holds the reverb settings for eight beats. And so we start to get like this kind of persistence, a little longer held for certain things. Of course, it's all about the art of where everything is. We may just want to keep blend up and turn down the amount of blend so that there's always some reverb. That's the kind of art of positioning. Making sure that the minimum setting is the minimum thing you're happy to have, and then using RANDOM8 additively to push it clockwise. And you could also then use a style that has a lower floor, you know, like Weibull, for example. So I may wish to do that. So I use Weibull on the reverb. Yeah, mate. Evolve. Unlock. Turn down all these dividers. Oof. Yeah. Yeah. I think the dream of this, right, is to set something up and then just leave it in the corner of your room while you work all day, yeah? I'll leave you to work that out. So here I've got a little bit of a kind of live rig set up where I've got a trigger sequencer, RANDOM8, and then a bunch of percussion modules and a voice as well. There's lots of different things we could do here, obviously, but I just wanted to show a little bit of percussion modulation because I think that's a really valuable thing that this can do. So if we have our kick drum running, oh yes, very familiar pattern, this one, and I trigger my proc, what I've got is I've got the same triggers that are triggering the proc clap are triggering two voices or two channels of RANDOM8 here. So the two inputs of the proc get modulated. And this is a good example because there's no attenuators on the input here. So we can use the RANDOM8's attenuators to dial back the amount of modulation they're sending in the X and the Y. This is the clonk, which is a sort of special firmware. You couldn't buy this, but you could load it onto these procs. And the clonk is going to another pair of channels here. And then what we're hearing is the HATS 909. And I'm using the top channel here to modulate the accent input. You can just feed a voltage into the accent input, which will affect the accent for you, obviously. But I'm also running the HATS 909 through a VCA with a decay control built into it. And I'm using the same voltage that's modulating the accent to also change the decay length. So it's modulating the length of the hi-hat as well as its volume. And what we could then do is we could lock that. We might like to play around with different lengths. Like what if we had a really short length, like 3, and then we locked it? this is where it becomes really interesting to use short step lengths. So we can get a bit more of a deliberate sounding 3-step kind of rhythm to this, which sounds satisfying. Hey. And so in this way, controlling accent with RANDOM8 is really one of the key things I wanted it to do. This is absolutely numero uno on the kind of hit list, because I wanted it to be able to inject feel. This is something that would take a sequencer to do in another way, and RANDOM8 gives you 8 channels of this. So I think percussion is its kind of superpower. It's the thing that it might be its most valuable for, though that's, you know, your mileage may vary. I can change the mode. Another thing that we might like to do, sounds a bit weird, is put the steps to 1. Because if we put the steps to 1, what's going to happen when we push the buttons is we're going to freeze what that's at. And if we push evolve, then it should change slowly over time. It's this bottom one, isn't it? So we can use this as a kind of way of freezing the sound at a position if we have a step count of 1. And we can evolve or double tap to unlock to make it dance again. And I'm obviously being a bit bonkers here, but you know, it's on you potentially to dial all this back and just make it nice and subtle. You can have just a little smidgen. A little bit of modulation, and then what you would do is adjust the settings on the module itself to kind of get it in the ballpark, and just have RANDOM8 move the ballpark very slightly. I'm going to evolve this. We get a different feeling pattern. Double tap. Turn these up to get more modulation. And again, we might like to just come to steps, and maybe we won't do like 3, but we'll do 2. And if you do 2 steps, you're going to get these like do 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 do. These 2 position things. Yeah, nuts. And then I'll evolve these. Weird. You get the idea, right? So there's a lot of fun to be had and sort of surprising things in like small step settings. Step settings of 1 lets you freeze. Step settings of 2 and 3 let you make little kind of reliable rhythms that are quite satisfying for this sort of thing. However, I do just want to mention again this high-low style, which, if we come into styles, is the blue one. And the blue one will alternate high and low. And so if I was to come in here and then let's run this, and then you hear it's got this kind of alternating high-low thing. And also, if you want to change the downbeat, the way to do that will be to kind of interrupt the stream and then plug it back in again. Because what I don't have at the moment is there's not a way to kind of change the reset of RANDOM8. To change how that rhythm is in relationship to things, you need to just kind of pause it and restart it for a second. Does that make sense? So if you actually pull the cable out, plug it back in, it will change the downbeat and it will stay in that relationship. That relationship for as long as you like. And then we can come into slide and we can apply slide, which... Oh wow, this is like sort of a Clangers Techno. Those of a British persuasion might know what I mean. Ooh. Clangers Techno. Clangers Techno. Well, there you go. There you go. And of course, the other thing is we could do here where we've got one controlling X and the other controlling Y, then I could have like a 3-step and a 5-step sequence, couldn't I? And then I could lock them. And then you'll have like two sort of rhythms working against each other in different sort of, you know, polymetric natures. Weird. So you hear then that there's a kind of id, there's a sort of deliberateness. But they're phasing against each other because one's 3-step and one's 5. And those two things are modulating one thing. Oh man, there's a lot to be explored here. And I think it's some of the most interesting aspects of the module is things at different time bases, modulating the same things. What you're hearing here is as well how RANDOM8 can create a kind of musical phrase out of modulation, how this like clonk is now the melody. And I believe the word for that is techno. I can have a weird length for this. So now I think I've got, was that 15-step or something like that for the hi-hat pattern? I really love that. I love that. That brings me untold joy that this thing exists and can do weird things like this. So good. Okay, there's one more thing here though, which is I want to show you a way that you can create feel where we don't have an accent channel. Let me wire that up. All right. So what I've just done is wired up a voice. And so I've created channel 5 on the A157 is going to trigger this braids and swell voice. And that's running through the ricochet, which is a VCA and a decay envelope all in one. But to create an accent where there isn't one built into this system, what I've done is I've run the voice through a VCA, and then I'm going to use RANDOM8 to control that VCA. And I'm doing this with a pitch voice, but you could absolutely do this with hats as well. If you had like something like the Hats 909, but didn't have an accent input, well then run the output through a VCA, and then we'll use RANDOM8 to control that VCA. And that will allow you to ride the volume on a per step basis. So if I turn up this channel, that's the red cable that's going here to the controller VCA. And we can hear now there is volume on this. It's being volume ridden. And I also, by the way, have 3 spare channels here. So I'm using one for volume and I'm using the second one for pitch. We could set that up a bit more in a sec. But notice, because it's in its default state, it's all over the frequency spectrum, or the volume spectrum as it were. What we want to do is have some consistent level. We don't have an offset built into this VCA, but you do have one in RANDOM8. And so that's what offset is for. If you go into offset, it's this pink. And as we turn this up, can you see this? You have the gift of sight. What offset is doing is it's a value that increases the base voltage of a channel right to the 10 volts ceiling. And if we do this, then the light is always red. And in fact, if I take the pitch out, it's a bit easier to hear that it's always the same volume. So the trick with offset is to dial it back just a little bit. And what we may also notice is that we can sometimes get clicks where we have a signal that is carrying on between the volume change thresholds. And you can use slide and introduce just a tiny amount of slide to help mitigate those clicks. And there's a spare channel here, mate, and I've got a digital module. Let me tell you that digital modules are RANDOM8's best mate, because timbrally, there's always so much to change. And let's come to style. Let's have Wable, the green one, which I said earlier is good for bass lines. We get a lot of low stuff with these occasional highs. Story of my life. Evolve that. Adjust. Ooh. And then did you see? I unlocked and then locked quickly to get a fast change that locked. Yeah. Adjusting. Turn up the hats modulation. Lock the hats. And then another thing that we've not really touched much is Dividr. What Dividr does is it just means it takes longer for a step to advance. And the same with probability. What that's doing is it's just the probability that it will advance to the next step. So if I increase the divider on the melody, we now get 4-note repeats. Oh yeah, I like that. So we can get nice little repeats. And if we go into probability, then we can just reduce the probability that a channel will advance, which also will create repeats, but probabilistic ones. And here it will just give us some nice occasional repeats in our pattern. Which just breaks things up, keeps things more interesting. Of course, we can pause and then evolve and wait for a change and lock and unlock these channels. So the choice is yours. Go subtle or go fruity. RANDOM8 offers all options. But above all, I hope your modular with a RANDOM8 is never boring. Links below to retailers who sell the RANDOM8. And another thing, which I forgot to say at the start, is that if you want to play with a virtual version of RANDOM8 in VCV Rack, it is free. So you can have a completely fully functional version of this, and which actually can do some things that the physical one cannot, for nothing. I just want to say here at the end how grateful I am to Befaco, who took a chance and assumed all the risk by working with me to develop this. And really, it is an ongoing process. Because RANDOM8 is digital, this means that we have the option to add things to this in future. I have a whole bunch of ideas, things and improvements I'd like to make to this to make it more capable. And I'd be really grateful for any of your input on what you feel is useful and what you feel would be nice to have or could be improved in this, because this is really only the beginning. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers, mate. Ace.